Hello and welcome to this podcast. My name is Richard Hayton. I'm the convener of the Political Studies Association group for the study of conservative politics. And I'm at the University of Hull today, where we've been enjoying a conference on the theme of the Conservative Party in coalition government. I'm delighted to say that I'm joined now by Pete Redford, who is a PhD student at the University of Birmingham, where he's based in the Institute for Applied Social Studies. And Pete's currently undertaking doctoral research looking at social mobility and poverty alleviation in British politics and some of the discourses that have been deployed by political parties around those themes. Thanks for joining us, Pete. To start off, could you say something about coalition welfare policy, particularly around the question of, is it essentially a conservative welfare policy?
Cameron essentially didn't win the argument at the 2010 election, so didn't really clearly have a mandate and has found himself in a coalition, which has opened up so many problems in terms of welfare for him. I mean, in the coalition, you have the Lib Dems and the Tories who, under Cameron, and as well as the Lib Dems under Nick Clegg, have basically accepted the kind of core of the welfare state, the need for public services, but at the same time realise that you've got to cut back on what the middle class get and the way that these services can no longer be provided after the recession. This has created many kind of ideological problems for Cameron. His thinking evolved from an opposition to a coalition, but once he got into coalition, it became clear in the comprehensive spending review that it was a case of cut hard, cut fast, and cut deep. And the problem with this was that he has problems with his own backbenchers who believe that maybe Cameron wasn't going to go far enough. Then you've also got the problems from the public in general who were in uproar about these cuts, and as shown by the passage of the welfare reform bill, it wasn't as easy as what they'd hoped it to be. And then you also have backbench of the Lib Dems who are also kind of ideologically in favour of public services and the welfare state, but being in a coalition, I found it very difficult to kind of argue against that.
So if that's the case, is that really a reflection of a long-term conservative ideological objective, or is it more of a reactive response to the current economic situation?
I think certainly it is a continuation of cutting back the state. I think Cameron, in his mind, is a liberal conservative. I think these kind of new liberal elites that have emerged in the modern Tory party, the metropolitan liberal elites, a lot of them see themselves as they accept that there should be public services and that there is a role for the state, but society is not the state, if that makes sense. They are carrying on traditional Tory theme of cutting back the state, but instead of cutting back the state and just leaving it as is and leaving everyone to the emphasis on the individual and kind of fending for themselves, they're trying to replace it with something new which promotes, let's all get together, let's all provide these things.
So one key narrative that the coalition has deployed in justifying some of its policies in this area has been the notion of the big society. And does that contain a kind of moral judgmentalism, do you think?
Yes, I definitely think there is. The big society is based on what came out in many reports by the Centre for Policy, the Centre for Social Justice, and the kind of idea of broken society, which is the next evolution in, well, not just the underclass debate, it's existed for over a century since the idea of the social residuum, the idea of an undeserving and a deserving poor. And they're trying to push this whole, it's on the individual, the move towards more towards workfare, which was started under New Labour, and they've tried to bring all together the New Deal schemes, everything into one lump thing, which basically saying that you need to work in order to get into the habit of working. It is, your responsibility as a member of our society to go out there, whether you work for £1 an hour on, the much derided schemes where you had all these people going out and being bussed everywhere and working for these schemes. And it's carrying on that narrative of the broken society where, you're idle and feckless if you live on benefits. And in order to no longer be idle or feckless, we will force you into work, and you will, by some divine intervention, a miracle, just because you're working on these schemes, you are going to find yourself a job. But at the same time, they're cutting back, they're cutting back the economy, they're cutting back things, and which is having a negative effect on the amount of jobs available.
Pete, many thanks for joining us. That was really interesting, and thank you for watching.